Hey there, it's Laura here from makingcardsisun.com, and today I'm here with a fun Easter card using some Sunny Studio stamps. So in today's video, I'm starting out with the Easter Wishes stamp set from Sunny Studio Stamps. And as you can see, this is just an adorable stamp set filled with a lot of cute Easter critters and some really fun sentiments. So I'll be using my mini Misty tool to position all of my stamps to stamp all of the images at once. I am using some Simon Says Stamp Ultra Heavyweight white cardstock since I like to use that with my Copic markers. So I'm going to pick out all of the images that I'll be using on today's cards, and I'm just going to position them onto my paper, and that way I can stamp them all at once and it just saves me a lot of time. So I picked up all of the stamps, and then I can easily ink up all of these images with Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is my favorite black ink to use with Copic markers. So I just really love to use this ink with that particular white cardstock just because it's really easy to blend all of the colors, and your black ink also doesn't smear or smudge when using it. So it's just a really great combination of these two products. So first I'll be coloring the little flowers. I started out by adding YG17 at the bottom to add my shading, and then I blended that out with YG23. But I wasn't really satisfied with that shading, so I decided to add a darker tone of gray as well. So I went ahead and I used YG67 to add my darkest color, and then I'm using my mid-tone, which is YG17, and then I am blending all of that out with YG23. And I repeated that step a couple of times until I was really happy with that shading, and I think that this is a really good combination for green coloring. Then for the pink tulips, I am using RV14 and RV13. As you can see, I add my darkest color at the bottom of the image, and then I work my way up with the lightest color. Then for the orange, I am using YR18 and YR16. So as you can see, I do some really basic shading with just 2 or 3 markers. I also like to use the feathering motion with my brush just to make it even more easier, Then for the yellow, I am using Y18, Y13, and YOOO. So I'm just adding the darkest color at the bottom, then using my mid-tone, Y13, and then finally I use the lightest color to add some highlight. So I'm not very good at Copic coloring. I'm still learning a lot, but lately I discovered just that this feathering technique works really great for me. Then for that little chick, I am using Y06, which is a Copic Chow marker. Then I'm using Y04 and the YOOO. So this is just some really bright yellow coloring, and I thought that the Y06 just looked really lovely on this little chicken. Then I'll be coloring the bunnies. I'll be coloring the inside of those ears first. I am using E30, and then I am using E000 to blend that out. So there you go. And then it's time to color the fur of these bunnies. I am using N2 to add my first layer of shading. So as you can see, I just add a little bit of that darkest gray. Then I'm going in with the N1 to blend out that darkest gray. As you can see, I'm using that feathering motion again with my brush. And then finally, I am using the NO marker to blend it all out. So I just wanted to mention that I learned more about this feathering motion through a coloring class from Kit and Clowder. I took this free online card class on basic Copic coloring, and that just really worked for me. So next I'll be die cutting all of these images, and I'll be using my brand new Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I got the opportunity to try out this machine. I'll be doing some exciting stuff for Spellbinders very soon. I'm not allowed to announce that, I think. But I'll be using the machine today to do some really basic die cutting. So I just created a sandwich to die cut these wafer thin dies. And this was the first time that I used the machine to die cut, so I was really excited to see if it worked great or if it worked well. And I was really surprised because this was the first time that I used it, and I immediately noticed that I didn't have to put a lot of pressure on the machine to feed these dies through it. So it went just really smooth, and overall I'm really happy for this basic die cutting. So here I'm using it again. This time I'll be die cutting some grass. This is the grassy border from Lawn Fawn. And this is a really intricate die, as you can see. So this was the first time that I tried out this really intricate die with the Spellbinders machine. So I just ran it through. And as you can see, it die cut just wonderfully after just running it once through the machine. As you can see, I got some really good results. So overall, I'm really happy, and I'll be trying out more or just other techniques with this machine very soon, and I'll be sure to share my thoughts on it. So now it's time to build this scene. I also die cut this picket fence die from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm adding some Tombow Mono multi-glue because I'll be adhering it to a rectangle. So I die cut this rectangle using some of the Lawn Fawn rectangle dies, and then I just adhered that white picket fence. And I decided to use the white color because I'll also be using some green grass or pattern paper. And I just kind of wanted to make sure that it wasn't too busy. And by adding that white, you make sure that all of these patterns don't really clash. So overall, these patterns are really subtle because I'm just using like a stripe pattern, and then the pattern for the grass is also really subtle. So this definitely works together. So after adhering that, I'm just going to cut the edges off since these are hanging off. And then I'll be doing something a little bit odd maybe, but these little stitched rectangles weren't visible anymore since I covered that up with the grass and the picket fence. So I just grabbed that rectangle die again, and then I'm lining that up with my rectangle, and I'm using some washi tape to make sure that's stuck. And then I just ran it through my die cutting machine once more, and then these little stitched lines were visible again. So I just did that because I really wanted to see those stitched edges, because I think that it's just a really nice and cute finish to this rectangle. And if you line up your die perfectly with your rectangle, then it should just work out fine. So I'm just going to show you a close-up. So as you can see, it worked really well. Okay, so we're almost finished with this card. I just need to stamp a sentiment, and I'll be using an Easter Wishes sentiment stamp from the Easter Wishes stamp set from Sunny Studio Stamps. And I just positioned that with my mini Misty tool. Sorry, my hat got in the way a little bit. So I picked that up with the Misty tool, and then I'll be inking that up with Memento Tuxedo black ink. So I'm just inking that up with my ink, and then I will be stamping that on my little sky, on the blue sky. I wanted to add something extra, so I cleaned my stamp, and then I inked that up again with the Wow Ultra Sticky ink pad because I'll be doing some heat embossing. So I stamped that with the Ultra Sticky ink pad, and then I'll be sprinkling on some clear gloss superfine embossing powder from Wow. This is my favorite clear, can't speak anymore, clear embossing powder, so that's why I decided to use it again for this card. So I'm heat setting my embossing powder, and it kind of warped up a little bit, and I wasn't really patient enough to put it under a stack of books or something else. So instead, I'm just going to adhere this piece to a piece of fun foam. And when you press your piece of pattern paper really well, then it shouldn't be warped up anymore since I adhered that to a piece of fun foam. So next it's time to start building this scene. I'm adhering the little flowers with Tombow Mono multi-glue, and I'm using my tweezers to help me position everything. And then I'll be adhering the bunnies and the little chickens with some foam adhesive. So I'm using some really tiny foam squares, and I really want to get a new pack of foam squares because I had a lot of trouble peeling this backer sheet off, because when I pulled it off, I almost pulled off the foam square from my little image, and I don't like that, so I have to get a new pack of foam squares because these aren't just really doing it for me. Then I'm using even more pattern paper. I'm using this lovely yellow plaid pattern paper from Avriel. The other pattern papers that I used are also from Avriel. I used the Sorbet collection paper pad and the Everyday collection paper pad from both from Avriel. Then finally, I'm finishing off this card by adding some sparkle with a clear wink of Stella glitter pen. And I'm also adding some glossy accents for some extra dimension and extra shine on this card. And I'm not using this little fine applicator tool because a lot of people do use that little applicator, but I don't really find it necessary. Then finally, I am adhering some sequins here and there. I am using sequins from the Tom, and I linked to all of these in my supply list below. And that finishes up my card. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and my blog to stay updated. Thanks again, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye!